So, where was I? Whoa! Scene change. Look at that fog. Look at the fog out on the field. Look at it, it's like on the heath. It's like fucking, something the Bronte sisters would have written. Look at it, it's gorgeous. Anyway, I was reading a story at some point, so Lucario's just realized that Chris has gone missing. He yelled, alarmed, and went to the hot spring to see if his trainer hadn't been boiled alive while he slept deeply. Okay then. With the steam blocking his vision, Lucario used his aura sight to scan the body of water for traces of life he was very familiar with. But not even seeing the bottom yielded life signs, nor was there a dead body coated in the planet's life energy.
He's not inside the hot spring. Where is he?
He asked to himself, as he then looked around the valley using his sixth sense. Lucario's nagging worries of his mentally scarred trainer being alone in the unpredictable world caused him to breathe in and out quickly with every passing second he used to scan the whole valley for his tracks. But no matter where he looked at, he could just not find him in the valley. Is everything okay? Juff asked. Obviously no, Ness said as they watched Lucario frantically swing his head everywhere without his eyes fully open. You can't find Chris anywhere nearby. I thought it would be easy for you to do. Lucario dropped his sixth sense as he opened up his eyes to look back at the children.
I just can't anymore. I can't detect his aura anywhere within my range. This can't be happening so suddenly,
he said, though his words were coming a little too loud to them. Oh, well, I guess I'm sorry I read it too quietly then. And he was starting to breathe rather quickly. They saw his chest filling with air, his eyes shaking while trying to stare forward, his curled fists to the side, trembling with horror. This is dark. And his face showing beads of sweat, though his last point was hard to tell as he was still dripping with water from the hot springs. Lucario! Paula held her hands open in a defensive position as the sounds of his breathing started to get louder, directed at the grass on the ground. Calm down. This may be really bad, but Lucario stared at them with wide eyes. They stepped back cautiously, because he was now baring his fangs unwillingly.
How can you say this may be really bad when I can't sense him anymore? I've never lost sight of him before.
He scolded loudly as his body caught itself ablaze with short bursts of flaring blue aura. Only a gulping Juff took cover behind a wide-eyed Ness, who took cover behind a shaking Paula. A lot of adjectives there. That's nice.
This is really bad. If I can't sense his life within my range and he got lost within a few minutes this fast, why would I think this may be bad? Did you forget how troubled he looked because of what I did? He's not completely okay.
Lucario's sudden panicked look was not boding well for the three children. It was rather creepy to see the stronger and taller member of the group slowly losing it to the possibility that he had lost his closest friend so simply like that. They understood well, at least much better than previous occasions, that Lucario was overly protective of Chris. You don't fucking say. And they knew how he would lose it if Chris would get a large bleeding cut on his head. But with the disturbed teen going missing without leaving a small trace behind, it caused Lucario great grief. Ness noted how the blades of grass around the fuming Lucario were starting to move with the wind, his bursts of aura pushed out. If they pushed the wrong buttons, dirt would be the next thing to fly away violently, followed by them. We can try to look for him. Maybe your aura isn't refined enough, Ness suggested. He received a very pissed glare that made his skin crawl. Fine, your aura is really refined and powerful. That it's very impossible for him to get lost in less than 10 minutes. Paula swallowed her breath. I thought I said swallowed her teeth. Paula swallowed her breath to start thinking about what was more important than trying to find a useless shelter to avoid Lucario's super wrath. Let's all calm down for a moment and think how on earth Chris disappeared so simply like that before someone does something really unneeded, okay? Screaming our heads off won't definitely give us an answer as to where he went to, she suggested as sweetly as she could. What all they got in return was Lucario snapping out loudly with a mighty roar that practically and literally shot strong air currents of wild aura energy all over that rustled the grass violently and pushed the children away. Alongside the table, alongside the table next to the hot spring that went tumbling down the cliff and startling all the Mr. Saturn in the valley. On paper, the scream was not the most destructive thing they witnessed. I like how it said practically and literally, because that's... Actually, I don't like that. I don't like that at all, that's dumb. Anyway. What was I? Yeah, okay. On paper, the scream was not the most destructive thing they witnessed. It was the cliffs around the valley falling slowly and dangerously coming apart that caused large boulders to fall down and roll all the way down, wrecking as many huts as they came into contact with. What the fuck? He just roared and he caused all this? Was he fucking Superman? Alright. The three chosen children all screamed in horror at the doomsday scene that the only safest place to be was inside the hot spring, since they were standing in the highest cliff area and no other higher cliffs surrounded them. With that being said, the three disturbed children dove into the hot spring and held their breath as long as they could, though somehow they were able to pressure their bodies to hold it in much longer, to not think about the murderous beast outside the water. Much to their relief, they found out that the water had been drugged to complain a sleeping effect and knocking them out cold. Is that relieving? is being put to sleep a relief? You get roofied. You know, is that a good is that a good thing now? Like, you know, you just kind of you oh, at least I'm unconscious now and floating in water. You know, I mean, that's a really good place to be. You're not compromised at all. You're great. The water had been drugged to contain a sleeping effect, knocking them out cold. Question mark? In the time that Chris had disappeared, the teen-turned-boy was out cold due to the drugged hot spring he took a bath in. He couldn't tell where he was because of how drowsy he felt, but his senses started to come back to him once he heard a loud roar coming from somewhere and felt a mysterious rumbling shaking the cold floor that he was lying down on. His body scrambled messily. Yawning and feeling cold, the boy shivered and embraced himself until he slowly opened his eyes, albeit he was too much distracted with how he felt like, and the effects of the drug still lingered in him. Another absolute mess of a sentence. That's nice. The effects of the drug still lingered in him. Good goodness, this is the last time I ever take a hot spring offer from big-nosed creatures like Jews. I'm very sorry, I don't quite know what possessed me there. This fucking spirit of Nazism, I guess. I'm very sorry. Well, some of my best friends are Jewish. He muttered to himself before he noticed he was lying down and there were bars in front of him. Blinking in confusion, he pushed himself aside and was startled by how the floor beneath him started to sway a bit. It was quite a wake-up call for him when he saw that he was surrounded by bars all around him, and that said floor was not large enough to walk on. Further head swings confirmed to Chris that he had been somehow thrown into a dangling cell hanging from the ceiling he could barely see from his claustrophobic position. He froze. Oh, it's hanging upside down. Okay, then. He froze, knowing full well he wasn't with Lucario or the others anymore. He was trapped inside a cage hanging from the ceiling, which was quite the abrupt change in setting. His shaking, dilated eyes looked beyond the bars to see a squared, steel-white room where he was being held captive. Chris was completely out of words, but full of beads of sweat on his forehead as he carefully crawled forward to take a grip on the bars for support, looking down to find the floor the same kind of material and color as the walls. Where he was right now, he didn't know. Where? Chris started to breathe fast and felt ready for his beating chest to have a heart attack. Probably the best solution he had to escape. I don't think that's ever really the best solution. He had to escape from the rather random and cruel situation he was put into against his will. His hands started to sweat on the bars he was holding onto as if he was about to drop into an abyss, and his only support was the bars to keep himself from falling. He felt a lot of vertigo that added up badly to the previous nightmare caused by Lucario. "Woo woo! Where in the hell am I?" he yelled loudly.